I couldn't believe what I was seeing. There it was, hovering over my farm, a drone, sneaking through the air like a nosy neighbor. But this wasn't just any drone. No, this one was the latest in a long line of tactics from a neighbor who's made it her mission to control every little thing around here. She's what you'd call an HOA Karen, and this time she crossed the line. At first, I thought it was a harmless curiosity. I mean, drones are everywhere now, right? But as the drone kept circling, I realized something. This wasn't just for fun. Someone was spying on me, and I had a pretty good idea who it was. What she didn't know was that I'm not just some guy out here with a farm. I'm a military drone pilot. I've got skills and equipment that could turn the tables. She thought she was pulling one over on me, but little did she know, she was playing a game with the wrong person. So, what happens next? How does a military drone pilot handle a situation like this? Does she learn the hard way that you don't mess with someone who knows the skies? Stick around, because this is just the beginning. To understand why this was such a big deal, you have to know a little about the neighborhood. I live on a piece of land that's been in my family for generations. It's not huge, but it's enough to keep me busy. I grow crops, raise animals, and maintain everything myself. It's peaceful out here, but over the years, more and more people from the city have been moving in, and with them, the rules. That's where the HOA comes in. They're all about control, rules for this, regulations for that. And of course, Karen is their queen bee. She's the type who's always got her nose in everyone's business, constantly writing letters about grass being too tall or fences being the wrong color. I've had my fair share of run-ins with her, but this drone thing, this felt different. It wasn't just about her usual complaints, she was spying, and I wasn't going to let that slide. I knew that drone wasn't hers. Karen didn't have the technical know-how, and her husband was usually too busy with his lawn to even notice. But someone was controlling it from somewhere close by, and I had a bad feeling it was more than just curiosity. It felt like an invasion. But why? Why was she, or whoever was behind the drone, so interested in what I was doing out here? That's the question I couldn't stop thinking about as I watched the drone hover in the distance, waiting for the next move. For days, the drone kept showing up. It wasn't even subtle anymore. Every time I went outside to work on the farm, there it was, buzzing overhead like a mosquito that wouldn't leave. At first, I tried ignoring it, thinking maybe it was just a random hobbyist. But when it started hovering directly over my fields, taking a wide-angle view of my crops, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't just some random flyby. I knew the neighborhood pretty well by now, and Karen's house was only a few lots away. But I had to wonder, was it really her, or was she just the face of something bigger? Was someone else pulling the strings? The thought gnawed at me, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I pulled out one of my old military drones, the kind you don't see in everyday stores, the kind that doesn't just follow basic commands, but can track and outmaneuver most consumer models. I wasn't looking to start a fight, but I had to make a point. I wasn't about to let someone spy on me without some kind of pushback. So, one afternoon, I launched it into the sky, keeping it low and out of sight. I figured if I could track the drone long enough, I'd find out who was operating it. As soon as mine was airborne, I noticed the other one take off too, almost like it was waiting for me. Was Karen really that determined to watch everything I did? Or was there something else going on here that I wasn't seeing? The tension between the two drones was palpable, and I had the feeling this wasn't just a random game anymore. Something bigger was at play. As my drone flew higher, the other one seemed to pick up speed, almost like it was aware of what I was doing. I kept my eyes on the screen, tracking its movements, and noticed something strange. It wasn't just hovering, it was maneuvering, like it had a mission. It was deliberately staying just out of range, as if testing my every move. I pushed my drone faster, determined to close the distance. The more I followed it, the more it seemed like the operator knew exactly what I was planning. But who could it be? Karen was too much of a control freak to be tech-savvy enough to pull off something like this, right? Or was she? Maybe she had help, someone who understood drones better than she did. Then, the unexpected happened. The other drone veered off suddenly, cutting across the sky like it had detected something on the ground. It was headed straight for my barn, a place I've always kept off limits to anyone, especially the neighbors. My heart skipped. There was no way it was just curious. Something was up, and I wasn't about to let it get any closer. I zoomed in, trying to get a closer look at the barn, but as I did, the drone dipped lower, almost as if it was trying to get a better angle. It felt like it was preparing for something that could change everything. What was it looking for? Was it scouting my property for more than just the crops? My mind raced with possibilities, and the deeper I got into this, the more dangerous it seemed. It wasn't just about drones anymore. There was something bigger on the horizon, and I wasn't sure if I was ready for what came next. Just as I thought I was closing in on the other drone, something wild happened. A signal popped up on my screen, one I didn't recognize. It was coming from my own drone. I froze. Was I being hacked? I had worked with military tech enough to know that wasn't a good sign. Whoever was controlling the other drone had somehow gained access to mine. The connection was getting weaker, my controls jerky and delayed. My heart pounded, my mind scrambling. Someone had just turned the tables on me. I tried to regain control, but it was like fighting an invisible force. The other drone was no longer just a spy. It had become a weapon. It was toying with me, drawing me into a game I didn't know how to win. And then it happened, the worst possible thing. The drone locked onto my signal and fired a small EMP pulse, causing my screen to flicker and go blank. I was offline, completely blind. Panic set in. My farm was now at the mercy of whoever was controlling that drone, and I had no way to track it. I couldn't help but wonder, had Karen been part of this all along? Was she just a pawn in a bigger scheme, or was she the mastermind behind it? But before I could even begin to think about what to do next, a text popped up on my phone. It was from an unknown number, and it simply read, "Asterisk, nice try, but this game is far from over." Asterisk. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Whoever was behind, this wasn't just watching. They were playing a long game, and I had no idea how deep this rabbit hole went. I couldn't just sit there. I had to do something, anything to get back in control. My first instinct was to get my backup drone ready, but I couldn't risk losing it too. Instead, I grabbed my laptop and connected to a local network I'd set up for moments like this. It was a long shot, but if I could intercept the signal and get a trace, I might be able to find where the other drone was coming from. Just as I hit the connect button, the screen flickered back on. The connection was shaky, but enough for me to see something incredible. The drone that had been attacking me, it wasn't even in the air anymore. It had landed, right in my barn. The barn I'd kept so secure. I grabbed my gear and raced out to the barn, my heart pounding in my chest. The sun was setting, and the shadows stretched long across the fields. When I reached the barn, I was expecting a confrontation, maybe a neighbor or two with more drones. But what I found shocked me. Inside the barn, a fully equipped tech setup was laid out, cables running everywhere. And standing there, looking surprised to see me, was none other than Karen's husband, Greg. He had been the one pulling the strings all along. It wasn't just about spying on me. It was about something much bigger. Greg wasn't just some lawn-loving guy. He had been working with a private contractor who'd been using drones to scout the area for land development. He'd been gathering intel on my farm for months, trying to push me out. Before I could say anything, Greg laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You really think you were the only one with a few tricks up your sleeve, huh?" He stepped aside, revealing a massive map on the wall with red markers all over it, including my land. "You've been in my way this whole time, but now you're gonna leave." I felt the weight of the situation sink in. This wasn't about a petty neighborhood dispute. It was about corporate interests, real estate, and my family's land. But I wasn't about to let him win. With a quick glance at my phone, I triggered the backup drone to launch from the other side of the barn. Greg hadn't anticipated that. In an instant, I was back in control, and I flew the drone right up to his setup, sending a signal that fried his entire system. The lights flickered, and the screens went black. He stood frozen, staring at the mess of cables and wires now sparking on the floor. "You think I'm going to let this go?" He spat like it was too late. I had won for now. As I left the barn, my phone buzzed again. It was another text from the unknown number. This time it simply said, "Asterisk, you've won the battle, but not the war." Asterisk. I didn't have time to process it, but one thing was clear: this wasn't over, not by a long shot. As I stood there, the weight of the situation finally started to hit me. Greg wasn't just some petty neighbor trying to mess with my farm. He was part of something much bigger. And the truth was, he wasn't the only one with a stake in my land. Whoever was behind him had bigger plans, and they weren't going to give up that easily. But for now, I made a stand, and that felt good. I called the authorities, got Greg out of the barn, and made sure everything was documented. The tech setup was destroyed, but I had enough evidence to start taking action. I wasn't going to let them get away with trying to force me out, no matter how many drones they had. A few days later, Karen came by to apologize, though it was clear she had no idea what Greg had been up to. She had been just another piece in the puzzle, caught up in her own HOA obsession. I let her know the truth, and while she didn't say much, I could tell it was sinking in. As for the mysterious texts, I never found out who was behind them, but one thing's for sure: I wasn't going to let my guard down. The farm was mine, and I'd fight for it, no matter who came after me next. This wasn't just about drones or neighbors. It was about standing up for what you believe in. And that's a lesson I'd carry with me, no matter what came next.